Hey everyone, this is Andrea Salvador and I'll be discussing determining the sample plan. Let's first discuss the basic concepts in samples and sampling. Census is the collecting and analyzing data from every possible case or member, while population is the entire set of cases from which researcher sample is drawn. Element or case is a single member of any given population, while sample is the specific group of individuals or elements that you will collect data from. It may be possible to collect data and analyze data from entire population, but seem impossible due to restrictions of time, money, and often access. There are two types of sampling method. First is the probability sampling, and second is the non-probability sampling. Probability sampling is also called random sampling or representative sampling. In probability sampling, every member of the population has a known probability of being included in the sample. This means that it is possible to answer research questions and achieve objectives. The probabilities can be assigned to each unit of the population objectively. Probability sampling has advantages and disadvantages. Its advantages are the sampling techniques reduces the chances of systematic errors. It minimizes the chance of sampling biases, and it gives a better representative sample. Inference drawn from sample are generalizable to the population, while its disadvantages are need a lot of efforts, a lot of time is consumed, and they are expensive. The process of probability sampling has 4 stages. First, identify a suitable sampling frame based on your research questions or objectives. A sampling frame is a complete list of all the cases in the population from which your sample will be drawn. Second, decide on suitable sample size. The larger your sample size, the lower the likely error in generalizing to the population. Probability sample is therefore a compromise between the accuracy of your findings and the amount of time and money you invest in collecting, checking, and analyzing the data. The sample size is affected by the following. First, confidence you need to have in your data. Second, margin of error that you can tolerate. Third, types of analysis you are going to undertake. And fourth, the size of the population from which your sample is being drawn. Statisticians have proved that the larger the absolute size of a sample, the more closely its distribution will be to the normal distribution, thus, the more robust it will be. This relationship is called central limit theorem. Statisticians have also shown that a sample size of 30 or more will usually result in a sampling distribution for the mean that it is very close to a normal distribution. The third stage in the probability sampling process is selecting the most appropriate sampling techniques and the sample. The choice of probability sampling technique depends on the research questions and your objectives. Subsequently, the nature of sampling frame will further influence the choice of probability sampling technique. There are 5 types of probability sampling techniques. First, simple random sampling. Second, systematic random sampling. Third, stratified random sampling. Fourth, cluster sampling. And lastly, multi-stage sampling. Let's first discuss simple random sampling. This involves selecting the sample at a random from the sampling frame using either random number tables, a computer, or an online random generator. Simple random sampling is best used when you have an accurate and easily accessible sampling frame that lists the entire population. The second probability sampling techniques is systematic random sampling. It involves selecting the sample at regular intervals from the sampling frame. To do this, first, Number each of the cases in your sampling frame with a unique number. The first case is numbered 0, the second is 1, and so on. Second, select the first case using a random number. Third, calculate the sampling fraction. Sampling fraction is computed by dividing the actual sample size over population. And fourth, select subsequent cases systematically using the sampling fraction to determine the frequency of selection. Systematic random sampling is not suitable without reordering or stratifying the sampling frame. Third probability sampling technique is stratified random sampling. It is a modification of random sampling in which you divide the population into two or more relevant and significant strata based on one or a number of attributes. There are two techniques that you use to allocate sample from strata. First, proportional allocation technique and equal allocation technique. The fourth probability sampling techniques is cluster sampling. It is similar to stratified sampling as you need to divide the population into discrete groups prior to sampling. These discrete groups is called cluster. And lastly, multi-stage sampling. It is sometimes called multi-stage cluster sampling because it is a development of a cluster sampling. It is normally used to overcome problems associated with geographically dispersed population when face-to-face contact is needed or where it is expensive and time-consuming to construct a sample frame for a large geographical area. Thus, in the final stage in probability sampling process is checking that the sample is a representative of the population. Another sampling technique is non-probability sampling. Non-probability sampling is also called judgment or non-random sampling. In non-probability sampling, every unit of population does not get an equal chance of participation in the investigation. The selection of the sample is made on the basis of subjective judgment. These techniques need not population to be very precisely defined. Non-probability sampling has advantages. These are techniques need less effort, need less time to finish up, and they are not much costly. While its disadvantages are sampling techniques are prone to encounter with systematic errors and sampling biases. The sample cannot be claimed to be a good representative of the population, and inferences drawn from sample are not generalizable to the population. There are 5 types of non-probability sampling techniques: quota sampling, purposive or judgmental sampling, self-selection sampling, snowball sampling, and convenience sampling techniques. First type of non-probability sampling technique is the quota sampling. Quota sampling is entirely non-random, is normally used for interview surveys. It is based on the premise that your sample will represent the population as the variability in your sample of various quota variables is the same as that in the population. The choice of quota is dependent on two main factors. First, usefulness as means of certifying the data, and second, ability to overcome likely variations between groups in their availability for interview. The second non-probability sampling technique is purposive or judgmental sampling. Purposive sampling enables to use judgment to select cases that will best enable to answer research questions and to meet objectives. Purposive sampling has 5 common strategies. First, extreme case. Second, maximum variation sampling. Third, homogeneous sampling. Fourth, critical case sampling. And fifth, difficult case sampling. Non-probability sampling technique is the snowball sampling. It is a non-random sampling method that uses a few cases to help encourage other cases to take part in the study, thereby increasing sample size. Dito, yung mga napili ng researcher na pagkukuhanan niya ng sample, sila na din yung nagre-refer ng pwede mong maging respondent para ma-increase yung sample size mo. Kaya siya tinawag na snowball sampling. Next is this self-selection sampling. Dito naman, it occurs when you allow each case, usually individuals, to identify their desire to take part in the research. Dito, parang yung respondent na ang nag-i-initiate para maging part ng research. Ni convenience sampling. It is selecting participants because they are often readily and easily available. Typically, convenience sampling tends to be a favored sampling technique among students as it is inexpensive and an easy option compared to other sampling techniques. Convenience sampling often helps to overcome many of the limitations associated with research. This topic I'll be discussing is the confidence interval method. Confidence interval refers to the probability that a population parameter will fall between two set values for a certain proportion of times. Confidence interval is simply a way to measure how well your sample represents the population you are studying. The probability that the confidence interval includes the true mean value within a population is called the confidence level, or CI. It is mostly 95% or 99% confidence level. As you can see in the table, different confidence levels has corresponding z-score. You can see in the picture is the sample size formula. There are two key factors to this formula. First, there are considerations relating to the estimation of levels of precision and risk that the researcher is willing to accept. The E in this formula is the margin of error, or the risk the researcher is willing to accept. The smaller the value of E, the greater the sample size required, as technically speaking, sample error is inversely proportional to the square root of n. However, a larger sample cannot guarantee precision. Z concerns the level of confidence that the results revealed by the survey findings are accurate. What this means is the degree to which we can be sure the characteristics of population have been accurately estimated by the sample survey. And K component of a sample size formula concerns the estimation of the variance of the population. In the table, you can see the sample size based on the desired accuracy. And that's the end of my report. I hope may mga natutunan kayo sa mga pinagsasabi ko. Till next time guys, bye everyone, keep safe, God bless.